Okay, so these are camera problems you didn't know you had until you go on set. And I've done all these, so here we go. Okay, so you open up the tripod bag and you pull out the sticks and you see there's no tripod plate because it's on the bottom of some camera that you don't have right now. So it happens all the time to me, even now. It drives me crazy. It's especially true for really high-end tripods because they have really specific plates and they just end up just living on the bottoms of cameras, and sometimes the cameras don't travel with the tripod, so it sucks. For my own purposes, I just make everything the same Manfrotto style plate, no matter what. And all my cameras have one of these on the bottom forever, and all the tripods have one in their bag forever. And that's the only solution I've really found, is just to have a bunch of extras of these. Shout out to the people who rented my tripod last, because they pulled off the rubber stopper on the bottom and then they lost the screw. So now I don't have a rubber stopper and I had to get another screw, and I'm using tape so it doesn't fall out. So yeah, so that's the other thing. So you lose plates all the time. You'll also lose the screw all the time. So I have a bunch of extra screws. I just bought a whole nother grip of them. Yeah, I have a bunch of extra screws everywhere in my bag and that kind of thing. But I also, most of my tripod heads have some sort of place where you can put extra screws, and I do that too. So uh, they just disappear over time. It's just a thing that happens. In the worst scenarios, I've been known to gaff tape my camera to the tripod or whatever thing it needs to be taped to. Probably don't do this in front of a client, but when I was in film school, we did it all the time. It worked for what we were trying to do, but it would look embarrassing. So, power and batteries and how thirsty your camera is for juice. More batteries than you think you need is the rule that I go with. I make a point when I get new batteries, especially for my little cameras that don't go through batteries so quickly, is I'll put the new battery once it's charged into my camera and just let it run out, and then write down how long it took and stick that to the bottom of the battery, so at least I have a guess. Nicer cameras tend to guess better about how much battery is left, but it is kind of a thing as you go up in physical size of camera. The batteries get bigger because the cameras get hungrier. So little cameras, you might be able to get away with one or two batteries all day. I'd bring a spare just in case. Also, when you're doing batteries, make sure you bring the charger with you, because you're probably going to be wanting to charge your batteries. It's just a safe thing to do. But again, the bigger camera you get, the thirstier they get. You'll end up in a situation sometimes with like an RE or a Red or a Venice, where they just chew through batteries in like 25, 30 minutes. And so no matter how many batteries you take, you're always trying to beat the clock with charging them. It can get to a situation too where they go through batteries so quickly, and these big cameras tend to take a while to boot up, like 30 seconds or a minute, where you have to really, figure out your workflow, because you don't want to be in a situation where you just turned off the camera to change the battery, or at least to save the battery, and now you're turning on the camera and everybody's waiting for you to get going. In a documentary, you're going to miss your shot. In a narrative thing, you're just going to piss everybody off. So, yeah, it's a you got to figure out your sweet spot. A lot of big cameras, you can get what's called a shark fin, so you can hot swap multiple bricks at the same time, and that's a good way to do it. I'll sometimes trust AC power. If I'm inside, I'll trust AC power and run my cameras directly off the wall or off of a generator. But if I don't trust it, I don't do it. And even when I do trust it, I leave a camera battery in there just in case the power gets pulled. So, yeah. We talk about memory cards for a second. I feel like there's two camps. There's the biggest memory card possible camp and the a bunch of smaller memory cards camp. Big is nice. It's nice because you don't have, fear of running out usually. And, you just got to plug one thing in your computer at the end of the day. But that's sort of where it gets dangerous, because I have a really bad habit of leaving old projects on memory cards when they're big. And then I'll come to set and think I have 128 gigs or whatever size memory card. And I only have like 10 gigs because I have a whole project that I forgot to put on my computer or put on a hard drive or whatever. So not great. Small memory cards, you don't have infinite recording time, but you're also in a situation where you're probably going to be either putting the cards away as they get full, or you're going to be doing the right thing, which is probably, putting them on a hard drive or on a computer as soon as they come out. And that way, the big risk with any memory card is they're going to die, they're going to fail, they're going to get lost. It's just inevitable given enough time. And so if you lose the one giant memory card, that could be your whole day. That could be your whole week. If you lose the one small memory card, maybe it's a couple takes, maybe it's a couple hours, but it's not the whole project. So that's why I tend to put in smaller memory cards, just because memory cards fail and they get lost all the time. The exception to this is I usually try to get a memory card big enough to go for 2 hours if I think I'm going to do a live thing, because most live things don't go longer than 2 hours. And so that's a situation where I would pick a bigger memory card. But in all other situations, a bunch of small memory cards, and just knowing that the numbers are in your favor if you lose footage. Whereas one big memory card or one big SSD, something happens to it, that's your ass. So plan for sound. Even if you're the camera person, it's not really your responsibility. Again, it's a covering your ass thing. If I know there's a sound person there dedicated, I'm still, especially if it's my camera, going to put a shotgun on the camera and record the sound anyway, just in case, because you never know. A lot of situations, somebody will give you a line to plug a sound into your camera. That's nice. But yeah, if it's your responsibility, I tend to have an external recorder, and then I just use the camera's onboard mic or a shotgun mic on the camera to record scratch audio, audio that's not meant to be the finished product, and the recorder is the real stuff. But no matter what, I have some kind of audio going into the camera, and even if I'm doing stuff where I'm controlling the audio, I will still use the camera's onboard mics to get scratch audio, because it's not good enough for regular stuff, but it's good enough to sync claps, that kind of thing. So yeah, just cover your ass is really what it is, because audio is half the movie, and people walk away when the audio sucks. It's one of those things. So there's an exception for bad audio for documentaries, and there's an exception for narrative. The documentary one is bad audio happens sometimes because documentaries play out in real time. That way, the solution is you just do subtitles, and you know that the sound's going to suck. Problem is, if the whole movie's like that and you're doing subtitles because the sound sucks and not subtitles because it's a different language, then people are going to get real tired of that real quick. For narrative, the bad audio thing is you end up with bad audio on set. You're just going to have the actors re-record audio. It's called ADR. It's fine. It just takes forever to do. It's a lot of extra work when you could have got good sound on set. So honorable mention, lens hoods, and more now monitor hoods. A lot of lenses come with lens hoods. The fancier the camera, sometimes you're going to have a matte box or an eyebrow, or just, somebody's hand shading the lens for the direct light coming in. Yeah. I'm not above, cutting up a cereal box, putting it over my lens, to shade it. Lately now, though, it's been more monitors. For some reason, monitors, even though some of them can be really bright, I tend to get glare. And so I tend to, tape a cereal box around the monitor so I could see. So it's just something I've always done. Let's talk about focusing those lenses. Again, there's two camps. There's manual and there's auto. Manual, every lens will do some kind of manual, or just about. Practice on every lens, because every lens is going to grab focus differently. You can either do it this way, you can do it this way, but yeah, some lenses, it's a huge amount of focus rotation, really specific and precise, and you have a lot of control. And some of them, it's like that much, and you're not going to know until you operate the lens that's in your hand. And older lenses, they might have something chunky in the middle when you're doing it. You just gotta practice. That's all. Newer electronic lenses a lot of times don't actually have a proper connection to the lens, and so the camera's sort of like telling the lens what to do when you do this. It feels horrible. It's a really bad feeling, but some electronic lenses do that. It sucks. Let's talk about autofocus. So there's only two sort of autofocus things that I would ever risk, because I'm an old manual fogey, whatever. It doesn't matter. I trust Canon with their Canon lenses and their Canon cameras and their dual pixel autofocus. I trust it. I've used it a lot. I'm good with it. So newer Sonys with their hybrid autofocus, but it's got to be a Sony body and a Sony lens. That's what I would trust. Everything else, it seems like they're catching up, autofocus wise, but those are the only two that I would ever trust. And by trust, there's still a little asterisk there. And that's, you got to understand what your autofocus is capable of and not capable of. Namely, that autofocus tends to be really unreliable when it's dark. So if you're in a dark environment, autofocus is going to freak out no matter how good it is. If you're in a really bright environment, but what you're focusing on is dim, there's a lot of chance that it's not going to figure it out in that situation too. The other thing is you can do eye detect or face detect or point detect or whatever autofocus you like, depending on your camera. But if you're in a situation where like your camera's facing a crowd of people and you're trying to focus on one person, eye detect, face detect, point detect is not going to, it's going to freak out. It's going to try to grab other stuff because it doesn't know what you know. So, newer cameras are getting more, elaborate about how they do autofocus. But if you put them in really weird situations, the autofocus is going to freak out because it just doesn't know what you know. The other thing is you got to make sure you know what your autofocus is going to do if the subject leaves the shot. So if you have like eye detect and then the person moves out of frame, is it going to snap to the background or is it going to snap to something else? How fast is it going to snap? Like it can be really jarring. And so you gotta practice again in the environment you're in. So that's all the problems I've come up with. What are the ones that I'm missing? So I'm sure I'm missing tons and tons and tons of little camera problems, but these are the ones that still dig me all the time, even today. And I have solutions for them, as I've talked about, but sometimes you're just given a bag of shit and you're trying to figure out if there's a diamond in there or not. So what a metaphor. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Catch you next time.